All right, ladies and gentlemen, friendly reminder, you have a test on Thursday, 25 questions, all multiple choice. I also do want to make it explicitly known that someone asked me today if we finished content for your midterm. Yeah, we did. We're literally into a new class. Like, we're officially starting AP Comparative early. Like, we are absolutely 100% done with AP Gov. You are absolutely ready for your midterms. We've covered the content. Now, we are spending a week reviewing for this midterm. I take review for midterms very seriously, not because I give a crap about midterms. I use it as a good way to kind of refresh and remind ourselves of the things we learned throughout the semester. So it's a good way, and we kind of use that, and it will help you, your review packet, which is well beyond what you need to know for the midterm for the county, will be a really great tool to help you review for your actual exam on the backside. Do you see how we're just planning ahead? Hello? I don't care about your midterms, but I do care about you, and you care about your midterms. So I am stopping everything. So this Thursday, you're going to get week 16 content. It's a focus and a study, focus and vocab. Then the following Thursday, you are getting a review packet. Okay, so next Thursday, you are getting a review packet after your test. Friday, I'm not here because I'm going to Orlando to go see that stupid ice thing at the, have any of you ever done it?
Is it nice?
It's at the Grand Old Opry, not whatever it is. What is it? It's at the fancy hotel. Hank's, we're going for Hank. It's one of his big Christmas gifts. So we're going, I won't be here on Friday. And that Monday through Friday of the following week, which is review week, we're just working in the review packet. You come to class, there's no homework, there's no quizzes. You copy down what I'm writing. That's it. And if you copy down everything I write down, which will help you review for your midterm and review for the AP exam, you get 150 points. Yeah, I think that's pretty good, don't you think? So pretty simple and pretty straightforward. So we have finished content for AP for your midterms. We're working ahead because our goal is not midterms, our goal is the AP exam. So we are obviously have transitioned. What do you got, Andres?
So there's not like a midterm for comparative.
There is a midterm, it's called a final. So you will take, I don't know how many times I've told you this. You will take AP Gov tests first on May 6th. You will then take AP Comparative on May 8th. You will then come to class and we will sit here with lots of rage and aggression, and we will work on a review packet for the stupid county exam.
After the AP exam?
Yes, dude. How many times have we talked about this? You will have a county exam. So you are taking your exam in the first week of exam week. I'm not doing shit with you for the rest of that week. Second week of exam week, my week of AP World, you are going to be working on a stupid review packet. I don't know if I'm doing it with you or I'll just give it to you. I'm not sure yet, okay? Because by this point, I'm completely fried and done with you people. But then in exam week, you do have an exam for AP Comparative. If you are in my AP World class or you're in APUSH and AP Euro, you do not have a final exam. If it's a year-long AP class, you don't have a final exam. If it's a semester class, which is what we are, AP Gov is first semester, AP Comparative second semester, you have a final exam. Yes, Lucas.
All APs?
Yes, dude, depending on what type of AP it is. So if it's a semester-long one, do you have a final?
You said no. You said yes.
If it's a semester exam, if you have a semester course, if you are taking one and it's only one semester, then you have you have an exam every time. If you have a year-long class like APUSH, AP Euro, AP World, that's a year-long course, Lucas. You do not have a final exam. You just have a midterm. Are we good? Okay. We've talked about this before. Here we go. Let's look at your vocab. There are 2 vocab terms you may not have had. On there, political culture is one of them. Political culture was not explicitly in the book, and it is a set of beliefs. You may want to write this down if you don't have it. That's why I asked you to take out your vocab. I'll give you a free answer if you want it. It is a set of beliefs that give order and meaning to the political process. Look at you, Olivia. You have nothing down.
Oh, because I do Quizlets.
Okay. It's a set of beliefs that give order and meaning to the political process. So here in the United States, I think, and you'll be excited about this. So I'm changing the way we're doing vocab going forward. Are you excited?
No.
Is it all?
Order and meaning depends.
This is so exciting. So I'm going to add an extra column in there, and I need you to give me examples.
Can you keep the boxes big though? Like I can't with it.
Can you add a word bank then?
What do you mean add an example? Like, can I say what
No,
it is?
absolutely not. So we're going to add a column starting not next week when we get back in December, and I'll just be like an example.
What do you mean by an example?
What?
That's a new year, new vocab. You said we come back.
See, next time. He gets it. He gets the vibe. Anyway, so we're going to add a column. So what would be an example of political culture here in the United States? Kate is just like, I can't handle this.
Christianity?
Whatever Democrat is.
The belief that one person, one vote, equality, these are all political beliefs, yes? Here in the United States, huh?
I feel like bonus is. Can they count as like a bonus?
Yeah.
Can we get an example bank? Like if we aren't getting a word bank, can we at least get an example bank?
I like that.
I fundamentally don't understand. I'm talking about not like a quiz on examples, people. That would be weird. I'm just saying like an extra column at the very end that says example, where you provide an example of all the things.
I think you
So what would be an authority figure? There would be a column right here. This is example, and you would write president.
Like you just draw a picture of
Prime
that.
Minister.
You don't think the quiz is like 5 minutes long, so think of examples. Or not 5.
What is wrong with you? Are you this broken? Oh my god. Huh?
Yeah, we'll have less room for like 2-word vocab quizzes.
Ethan, are you seriously complaining about AP Gov work when you do AP World?
It's
Are you
stacks,
literally
though.
complaining?
It stacks. Like, just because it's less doesn't mean it's like not bad. Doesn't mean it's not like all the other classes too.
Yeah, I know, but it's not that hard. It's literally an example of a word. It's a word. Are you okay? Are we this broken? Oh my god, you people. It's a word! I'm looking for a word!
But it's like we have to go find the word. It just depends on like it's extra. It's like and also like it's 20 more letters. It's not in the book. There's no example. Yeah, and they're not ordered.
What are you talking about? There's no examples in the book. The whole book is examples.
No, it's like no.
Yes, it does.
You actually have to sit there and think about it. It's there. I'm going to. Hi. Let me make something explicitly clear for you. I make everything you have. I make it. There's spelling errors in there because I spelt it wrong. That's why. Because I do all of my schoolwork between the hours of 7:30 and 9:30 every day. I sit on my couch every day and do AP Gov because I curate everything. Everything for AP Gov is literally being thrown away. My hundreds of hours of time I built curating your content is trash because I'm doing it different next year. And that's fine. Everything I do is made specifically for you. So, do not fuss at me about what is in the book because I wrote your damn focus that goes via the book. So I'm sitting there, when I do my vocab, I'm sitting there reading the book, filling out my vocab as well. So when you look at the quizzes and there's a spelling error, it's because I made a spelling error while I was typing out these things, sitting on my couch between the hours of 7:30 and 9:30. So yes, I am aware it's time consuming. As someone else who is also consumingly wasting my time. Yes, Andrew, would you like to add something to the conversation?
No.
And I would turn around. What do you got, Ethan?
How'd you get vocab that's not in the book?
Because if you look at the little blurb at the top of the page, it's where it is included, Ethan.
I saw that too.
It is golden, they just don't give you a great definition.
Like, some of the words they don't have. For like,
That's why we literally just went over it, Ethan. We just
but
did one.
even before, like authoritarian, like I only saw like in the bottom of the chart, but didn't have a definition.
Well, here we go. This is what we're covering today, Ethan. How wonderful for us. So, political culture was the one that you didn't have, and political socialization is the second one that wasn't explicitly clear. Political socialization, you should already know because I taught you this in APGov, yes? In the lit, what is, oh, we don't have it down. What is political socialization, Kate?
It's the process by which people acquire political beliefs and values.
There we go. It is the process in which people learn their political beliefs. Now, in AP US Gov, I taught you who has the most influence on your political beliefs. Wow, okay, we said that. Okay. It is your parents. Now, here, when we're looking at big picture, because we're doing little micro to macro, now that we're in big picture, we're looking at our society as a whole. Does it hold government politics very high in the United States? Yes, engagement is a big part of our democracy. There we go. All right, let's go. So, today we are talking about authoritarian versus democracy. Ethan, are you ready? Oh, well, Ethan, this is why I'm here, friend. Let's do it, shall we? Okay, so let's talk. Now, it is really important for you to understand that there is a difference between authoritarian and democracy. So let's define them. A democracy, ladies and gentlemen, is based on a constitution. A democracy is based on a constitution or a supreme law. Okay? A supreme law that defines the structure of the nation-state's regime and legal process. What does that mean? Simplify it for me. When I say a supreme law, what does that mean? Here in the United States, we have a supreme law. Even.
It's like the most overarching law that applies to everything.
Sort of. You're not wrong, but you're not right. What makes a constitution a supreme law? It means it's what, Adam?
It's the foundation for all other laws.
If it's a supreme law, it what, Kate?
It's like above everything else that trumps it. Like all other laws.
Sort of. What do you got, Shane? It applies to everyone, thank you. Yes, this law applies to everyone. Everyone equally. Everyone equally. That's the big difference, and that's going to become a big deal here in a minute. Okay, so a democracy. So let's talk authoritarian. Okay? So, we just spent a long time talking about democracy. Okay, authoritarian, ladies and gentlemen. Authoritarian is when one person dictates the direction of a country with very little citizen influence. Okay. Authoritarian is when a person dictates the direction of a country with very little influence from its citizens. So, let's stop and provide examples. So, what is an example of a democracy? Give me some examples, Pierce, of a democracy, a country that has a democracy. United States. Lucy, give me another one. Canada is one. Andrew, give me another one. Mexico is one. There you go. Okay? Authoritarian. It is when one person dictates the direction of a country with very little citizen input. Thank you. Steffi. Okay. Now, it is really important when we're talking about, especially with authoritarian regimes, we need to really say a person and the country they go to. Okay, because that's the language we're going to be seeing on the test going forward. There will be test questions, not this week, that say Tony Blair is responsible for ushering what type of regime into England. You need to know that Tony Blair is going to create a Labour Party regime in England, which is a big deal because it's the first time it happened in like 100 years. Okay? So, see, he gets it. With that being said, who can give me an example of authoritarian regime giving me the person and the country? Ty. Putin from Russia. Now that's a big deal because Putin, Russia is a perfect example of an authoritarian regime. However, Boris Johnson or Boris Yeltsin, nope, why am I blanking on his name? Yeltsin. He is a democratic example from Russia. That's the difference. So that's why we have to qualify it. Is everyone clear? Because in Nigeria, one of the 7 countries we study, it was an authoritarian country, and then it turns into a democracy. So we have to be triggering and tying people to it. Give me another example of an authoritarian. Ben.
Xi Jinping in China.
There you go. Xi Jinping in China is an authoritarian regime, for sure. What do you got, Ethan? Kim Jong-un in North Korea, okay? Now, the funny thing is you could say all the Uns are authoritarian, but it's not always the case. But in North Korea, it's a perfect example for sure, okay? So we really need to be tying those things, okay? Your next heading is how do we decide if a country is authoritarian or a state. I'm working on my vernacular too. How do we know if a state is authoritarian or democratic? That's your heading. Okay? After you have that heading, you're going to put a big star. It is decided by foreign countries. We don't get to tell the world we're a democracy. The rest of the world tells us that we are a democracy. Keep in mind, China, under Xi Jinping, which is in complete lockdown, calling a economic crisis around the world, the whole world's holding its breath, literally at this moment. What we are seeing with him, they call themselves the Democratic Republic of China. So they call themselves a democratic republic. That's funny because they are not. That's why countries don't get to decide what they are. Outside countries get to decide. Is everyone clear on that? Okay, because China under Xi Jinping is actually a authoritarian. That doesn't sound so nice when you say authoritarian society of China. Okay, so there are 4 ways that foreign countries measure the democracy or the authoritarian. The first one is rule of law. So how do we decide if a country is democratic or authoritarian? The first one is rule of law. If all laws apply to every person, it's a democracy. Okay, so the rule of law. You should be writing this down because this will make it easier on the backside, I promise. Rule of law. If all laws apply to everyone, it's a democracy. If rules only apply to some, it's authoritarian. So, what are some ways we see that rules apply to some and not others? Andreas.
Well, like in China, or maybe it was in North Korea, he appointed himself as president.
Yeah, Xi Jinping did that. You're also going to see bribes. Typically, when you see bribes, it's typically more of an authoritarian regime, typically in that country. Because here in the United States, you cannot bribe public officials. Okay, it's against the law. You cannot do that. Why? Because we don't want public officials favoring some people. It's not always indicative, but it's pretty indicative of an authoritarian. So next to your notes, guys, I would write bribes. You have to be getting better at examples. You know how you just had this whole negative response? You literally almost shut down because I mentioned adding a box on your vocab for examples. These are the things you need to be thinking of. Okay? Here in the United States, we prosecute all people for breaking the law. I mean, for God's sake, Todd Chrisley is going to jail. You know? I mean, tragic as that is, as a true American hero. Ethan.
We talked about this earlier.
You don't need it. Yeah, OJ also went to jail. So, I mean,
I thought he didn't.
he did go to jail because he frauded he frauded the government. It's fine. It's not something I teach. Okay, control of the media is the second way we see if a country is authoritarian or a democracy. If it is a state-controlled media, it's what? Authoritarian. What does state-controlled media mean? Ethan?
It means that like the government is the one who's in charge of it.
Absolutely. So when shit goes bad in Russia, even to this day, when shit goes bad in Russia, they play the ballet. They play the Nutcracker on TV. So when they're having national protests and stuff like that, like things are going wrong, it's one of like the running jokes apparently in Russia, is when shit's going, you know things are really bad when the Nutcracker is on TV. Because they don't know what to play, so they just put on the Nutcracker, and it's just like a sign of the times, like they're panicking, they don't know what to do. Right now, do you think Xi Jinping is allowing Chinese state government to run protests?
No.
No. So what they were doing is on state TV, they were talking about the World Cup, which they really haven't broadcast at all in China. But they started talking about it for the first time too. Distract the people of China, for sure. Pierce.
I saw that on their like streaming or something. They didn't show the crowd because they don't have masks on. So they want to like they were showing
I don't know what you're referring to, but sure. They modify every single thing. They control every single aspect. Like when you go to their country, if you go to China, you can't use any of your social media apps. Everything's blocked. You can't use. If you're an American in China, all of your social media is blocked. Yeah, you cannot use your own social media. It's completely blocked. They have their own social media, which is all monitored by. TikTok is a Chinese app. You know that, right? TikTok is completely manufactured by the Chinese government. It's a completely different version from what they have in China. You know that, right? China, it's super academic and used for like real purposes, and they have a 40-minute block on it. China's trying to rot your brains, people, by giving you this access to stupid dance videos where you spend hours upon your time because they are competing against us and they want to melt your brains. TikTok is a Chinese app because they don't let them on social media like we have. Yes, it is. It's very smart. They have their own problems though, so let's not idolize it too much. Control of the media. If it's state controlled, it means the government's running it. So they're going to hide things. China's not covering, and you should write this down, China is in protest, demonstrating protest. Russia doesn't show the death count of the Russian citizens. They're only showing victorious components. What do you got?
Wasn't the UK government own BBC?
No, it is state sponsored, as in like supported, just like PBS here in the United States. Okay, now there is a relationship between PBS here in the United States and the government because most of the federal funding goes to it and supports it, but there is some independent components. Now, in free and open press is the opposite. So, in control of the media, you have state-run media, and then you have free and open press. What is an example of a country that has free and open press, Ben?
Here.
United States, absolutely. You can go right now and turn on the TV, and you can find pretty much a ton of options of people who are criticizing Joe Biden on television. Can we? Yeah? Okay. It's easy to find. You can find it on the internet. Very easy to do. That's free and open media. We are able to have complaints openly. Lily?
So I'd be Democratic.
That's Democratic. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Transparency is your third. Okay? It is the ability to criticize politicians. Okay? When we talk about transparency, it is the ability to criticize politicians. Okay? In a democracy, if you do something stupid, everyone on late night television is going to be making fun of you. Can we agree? Okay, people all over the media, all over Twitter, all that stuff, are all going to go after you, and there's nothing anyone can do. In an authoritarian regime, what happens to people who criticize the government? Yeah, they by accidentally fall out windows in Russia, or they get mugged in their homes.
What does
Mug means when you get like beat up walking around. People keep falling off bridges in Russia. It's mysterious. All these people who criticize Putin, It's very mysterious. Cars explode all the time with people in it who have criticized the government. Saudi Arabia cuts people up and puts them in bags in embassies. I mean, that's what they do. That's what happens to people who criticize the government as a warning to other nations. Here in the United States, you just kind of have to kind of take it. I mean, how many jokes have you seen about Joe Biden? There's a lot of jokes about Joe Biden, and some of them are very funny. Some of them, I think, are kind of mean, but most of them are funny. What do you got?
I thought transparency was like how much the government like shares with like.
It's the ability to criticize the government and push the government in order to have a reaction.
Oh.
That's what transparency is being able to criticize and kind of push to that more information. Third one is free and fair. Fourth one is free and fair elections. Okay, so sometimes free and fair elections are the quintessential gold standard. That people voted, those votes were counted, and those results are accurate. Putin gets elected, I think, every 7 years. Okay, I think Russia's every 7 years. He had a 99% election rate.
Not accurate.
Yeah, no, definitely not accurate. He definitely didn't have a 99% approval rating from the people of Russia. Even though he was very popular before the war of Ukraine, he was not 99%. Okay, Xi Jinping had a 100% election rate. So, how likely do you think that was to make himself president for the rest of his life? Not very high. Emily.
What happened in Russia to the people, or to like the 1% of people?
It was just it's a lie, my love. It's a complete lie. There was no 1% because the ballot boxes were totally stuffed and it was a sham election. But universally, everyone decreed it a sham election, and that's how Putin won. So nothing happened to them because they never existed. Free and clear elections are, so we're going to see that fake elections are going to be had, and another way where they are going to stuff the ballot box in their favor, or they're going to discredit elections in order to gain power, saying that the elections were not fair, so they will not accept the failed results. So an authoritarian regime does not accept unfair election results, and that's a huge component.
You mean they don't accept fair elections?
They don't. They'll say it's a rigged thing, and they don't accept. In a democratic system with free and clear elections, losses are accepted. You need to know that. In a free and clear election in a democracy is people win and people lose in elections. And people accept wins and losses. Alright, so when we're talking about democracy versus authoritarian, these are done from outside perspectives. They look into a country and say, oh, what does their media look like? What does their rule of law look like? Are their elections free and clear? And what is the transparency? Now, we've already kind of gone through this, so you don't need to write this down. In a democracy, government is chosen and replaced by the people. Right, Alan? Citizens actively participate in politics. Human rights are protected, and the rule of law affects every single person. That's what a democracy looks like, and we're kind of pulling that information through. Okay? Now, when we're talking about going through and tying this to our content, this is really the first time I'm going to directly tie it to my content in a way we haven't seen before. This is what I'm talking about when I'm saying I'm providing examples. These are things you absolutely have to know, and these are big things you have to have in your notes. So write it down. That both Nigeria and Mexico, and I would put a big box or even have a highlighter with you in class going forward. Every time I say one of the 7 countries, you should really put a big box around it because it's a big deal. Both Mexico and Nigeria, 2 of our 7 nations, used to be authoritarian, now are democracies. This is where you're starting to see how this class is going to be. We're going to talk about countries. We're going to talk about ideas. We're going to tie it to each of the countries and how it's shaped. Going forward, you'll also have to be tying people's names to these regime changes going forward once we get more into content. So, both Mexico and Nigeria used to be authoritarian regimes. Now they are democracies. Now, is Mexico a great example of a democracy? No, but it is still a democracy. So, it's on a spectrum. We have the highest esteem, and we have some of the barely in the category. Yes?
What are all 7?
It is going to be China, Iran, Japan, Mexico, Nigeria. No, U.S. isn't one. What was the other one? Great Britain, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, hello, UK, idiot. Okay, we are not allowed to use the word England in this country because England refers to just the little baby island and not all of its power. I'm telling you right now, I am working on my language as well, yes? I said a country and then I changed it to state because I need to get used to using the word state. I'm going to have a big problem with England because I call it England all the damn time because I talk about England all the time. It's UK. If you write England on your test, you don't get any points. It has to be UK. So, here we go. Now, democratization. How much time do I have? 5 minutes. Guys, we're crushing it. Okay. So, democratization, ladies and gentlemen, is becoming more democratic. Simple, straightforward. So, having fair elections, more transparency, equal treatment of citizens, okay? Democratic consolidation ties to democratization. Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky between these two words. Democratization is when you're starting to do all of these things. Democratic consolidation is when you're making significant gains in all of them. So all of them are being lifted and you're making yourself a more solid democracy. So there are some countries in this world that are just really working on equal citizenship. Australia is one. They just legalized gay rights like 2 years ago. So they are democratizing only in this part, equal treatment of citizens, by legalizing gay rights in Australia. They are not consolidating. Our democratic consolidation is not very high because they're only focusing on one of those. If they begin focusing on multiple things in order to strengthen their democracy, then we're going to have a higher democratization consolidation. Is everyone clear on that?
Sure.
So the more of these you do, the higher your democratic consolidation is. So here in the United States, I told you this yesterday, our democratic consolidation has started to go down because people do not believe that we have free and fair political system. Well, all of a sudden now the belief system is not that we have free and fair elections. People now are arguing that. There is talk of the United States that we are limiting voters by playing with the ballots. And of course, equal citizen of treatments is now becoming more of a concern here in the United States. That is the reason why we've been downgraded in our consolidation of democracy. So, by rising, we check as many of those and work on plenty. By decreasing it, we have more issues in those contexts. Andreas.
For democratization, it says moving toward a fully liberal democracy. What do you mean by
Fully
that?
liberal means every person has protected. Now, hi, you need to understand, please listen. Fully liberal democracy is not, oh, we need to be all Democrats, no Republicans. That's not what it means. You're talking about it in a U.S. perspective, we're talking about it in a world perspective. From a world perspective, a fully liberal democracy means everyone has individual rights that are protected by the government and human rights protected by the
So
government.
it's saying like liberty, not.
Liberty, not like democratic, like bad conservatives. That's not the opinion of the world. That is the very narrow United States perspective. So keep in mind, they're borrowing off of these words because those words derive power, but they're not the same. See you, Olivia. Tomorrow will be better, yeah?